Beady beep. Let's move you over a bit. Hello, good morning and all. It's Chester here. Don't confuse me with Barry, the bugger. So what we got for you today? Well, it's a bit worrying what we got for you today, but let's do it anyway. There's a firstly, become a warrior teacher. I'm doing the meeting tomorrow, so everybody's going to be coming along for Q&A tomorrow evening. So if you haven't registered your interest, please do. Links are all in the Dewberries. Buy me a coffee. End of the month is here. It's always the desperate time. Buy me a coffee, or support me on web. Yes, you get it right in the Dewberries. Subscribe. That's the other thing. I'm nearly at 4,000. Can you believe it? Extraordinary. Okay, moving on. Yesterday, Helen Webberly, who is a doctor who was struck off for various reasons, wasn't struck off anymore, won her appeal. There's an article that was written by the redoubtable Sarah Phillimore, which I put into the Dewberries for you. It's a Substack, noting a number of worrying things. However, the fight isn't over. I mean, go and have a look and see what Sarah's got to say. It's worthwhile you doing so, but it's raised in me another worry from an article that I got on the 30th of March, which is from a magazine called Pulse Today, which you may or may not be familiar with. Pulse Today, I think, covers medical stuff generally. Now, bear in mind that Webberly was taken to the GMC, which is the General Medical Council, who are responsible for the policing of doctors and whether or not they're fit to practice. It hears all sorts of things. It's based in Manchester, and the chief executive is the person that I wish to talk about. His name is Mr. Massey. Because in light of what happened with Webberly yesterday and the fact that these people don't seem to understand that gender identity ideology is a cult, it worries me greatly that the one body that is there to protect the public from erroneous doctors may well be completely captured. But I'll leave you to decide that. As usual, this is here for your consideration. The article comes from Pulse, as I said, and the headline is, "We should be ashamed of inequalities in medical exam pass rates," says GMC chief. The chief executive of the GMC says we should be ashamed of the lower pass rates among trainees from ethnic minority backgrounds for exams like the MRCGP, which is about being a doctor, effectively. Delivering the closing speech at Pulse Live last Wednesday, Charlie Massey called for regulatory hurdles to be lifted to allow doctors to help mitigate pressure in general practice. When asked whether this could offer another route into general practice for GPs who have failed the MRCGP, especially since they are disproportionately internationally medical graduates, Mr. Massey said that it's something that should not be off the table, that should be on the table, rather. He said medicine exams comprise a lot of high-stake moments, and this does not generate fair outcomes for people, which has helped create a disparity in pass rates. Earlier this month, the GMC published data on the progression of doctors in postgraduate medical education in the UK, which showed inequalities persist. There was an 18 percentage point difference between the special exam pass rates, which includes the general pass rates, of UK-trained black doctors and UK-trained white doctors in 2021. Well, that doesn't mean a damn thing, does it? Let's be honest. Black and white, could it be more obvious what these people are doing? Since 2014, there has been an average difference of 26 percentage points in specialty exam pass rates between different people within the UK. In his speech last Wednesday, Mr. Massey said, "I think in medicine we have a lot of high-stakes moments that we know do not generate fair outcomes for people. We're not interested in fair outcomes. We want the best doctors possible. If that means passing an exam based on what we know to be the best, that's it. Okay? And I've got to tell you, I've been ill over the last few years, and I'm going to continue to be ill because that's the nature of being older. And the doctors that I have met have, right down the line, been absolutely superb at what they do. In hospitals, as GPs, they know what they're doing. If it ain't broke." At the moment, we have a problem in relation to that. We published some data recently about differential pass rates in terms of doctors from ethnic minority backgrounds, both UK trained and overseas trained. And I'd say that's also something we should be quite ashamed of. However, and here we go with the alternative. Earlier this month, a University of Lincoln study claimed ethnic minority doctors perform no worse in GP licensing arrangement assessments than white doctors, when scores and demographic factors were considered. So there's more to this than meets the eye. In November last year, the GMC launched a new hub to assist doctors. I've got a link to the hub downstairs in the Dewberries. Go and have a look. It is the same nonsense. Microaggressions, blah, 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 blah. That same at Pulse Live, Mr. Massey referenced this case. His speech focused on following doctors to work, allowing doctors to work in general practice, calling for the performers list rules to be updated. Mr. Massey warned that waiting for more GPs to come and plug the workforce gap risks killing the primary care model. When asked whether this would help doctors who have failed the exam to enter general practice via a different route, he said that is a question they would need to work through. He added, I think it's something that should be on the table, but where it will land, I couldn't tell you at this point in time. This is the head of the GMC admitting that they are looking at an equality of outcome, not an equality of opportunity model in medicine. If that doesn't scare you, nothing will. Nothing will. We have forgotten, in our rush to be inclusive, that exams and particularly strident conditions in which it takes to become a doctor, we require the best of you, and they are the best of us in time. In the vast majority of cases, doctors are the best of us. But we have standards that we've set, and we've set them for a reason. And there are limits on the number of doctors that can practice in the UK at any given time. There's a limit that can be trained each year because we need to be able to make sure they can have placements and have the attention that the type of learning that they're doing, which is the most extraordinarily complex and dense learning, is handled in the most extraordinary and professional manner. Anything that dilutes that should be treated with the most unbelievable suspicion. This is again an example of the equity wallahs wanting to disrupt existing systems. And when you go and look at the hub that they've launched for the GMC, again, the link's down in the doobly for you, you can see that they are captured by critical race theory. This is the same GMC who pontificated over Webberly, which has now been overturned at the appeals court. And I've got to ask myself the question, and it's possible that you're going to ask yourself the same question too. To what degree is the GMC captured by beliefs in unreality and hard left tactics that have infiltrated what we know most organisations by now under the guise of EDI, inclusivity and all that nonsense? If equity is allowed to get hold, if equality of outcome is allowed to get holds in our organisations, then we will have organisations that do not function. We're already beginning to see this. We're already beginning to see this. When I'm talking to young people or when I'm teaching young people, we can see that they are already entrenched in ideological thinking in which protecting the idea of inclusivity trumps everything. Trumps everything. Absolutely everything. I met a safeguarding team yesterday who, when I said that, gender identity idea was a safeguarding risk, they balked. They didn't just balk, they got defensive. And anyone who knows anything about safeguarding knows that if you mention something that you think is safeguarding and they get defensive, that is the safeguarding. The fact they've got defensive is something to worry about. And this safeguarding team worked for a major organisation. And they got defensive when I said that any child taking a gender identity was a safeguarding risk. What we are seeing here is not just the undermining of safeguarding, but the infiltration and the parasitisation of organisations that have stood us in good stead for a long time. And they are nearly done. They're nearly done. Our way forward may now only be parallel institutions. I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who's a doctor in a particular type of practice, and he's now looking to set up his own particular type of practice with patients and to do it privately, because the danger to him for working for the NHS is too great. It's too great. I'm going to start looking at, it sounds ridiculous, I'm going to start looking at a guide to employees, just thinking about what does an employee need and how to behave in the workplace to avoid engaging with any of these people in any way, but also maintaining your professionalism and being able to work. What is the best way to deal with those types of people? How should one behave in the workplace? And I think we have to make a grand distinction between in-work behaviour and out-of-work behaviour. The take your whole self to work mantra is designed so that they can destabilise you. That's why they do it. They want to know what you think about everything so that they can make sure you haven't got wrong think. That's what bring your whole self to work means. Bring your whole self to work so we can analyse you for wrong think. You might think I'm mad as a hatter. Go ahead, I think I am. I say so always, that I'm as mad as a hatter. The jester is as mad as a hatter. Maybe I'm not. It's time to start thinking about how we set up separate organisations and also how we don't give these people the oxygen they need, which is essentially our speech, our thoughts, our ideas, which they can then use for their nefarious agenda. And that includes those who are the high priests, the very worst of the worst, the acolytes who do the biddings of the high priests, or the adherents who enforce the beliefs of the high priests or the flock that follow them. They must be frozen out of public life in every way possible, and it is only the public that can do it, because the organisations are not going to change. And I wish that I thought they were, but I don't. Go do something. Hear the seagulls? I don't live anywhere near the sea. Some lost seagulls out there. I'm going to go, all right? You have a great day. I'll see you later. Bye.